Hello, welcome to an episode of Honest Nonsense. Today it'll just be me, Walter. Skuzeski. So the reason why we went with Honest Nonsense, apart from it was Cody and started stuff that was honest sports, but I feel like honest nonsense for me, it is it represents the utter insanity of our times. That you so many people say things and we'll that you just honestly can't believe that someone would actually say or believe in such nonsense. Like, for example, that when Trump, as the weekend was coming about, would tweet, "The riots in Charlottesville a year ago resulted in senseless death and division. We must come together as a nation. I condemn all types of racism and acts of violence. Peace to all Americans." He said that on August 11th. Who the fuck is he kidding, man? That is garbage, dude. Way to go. Way to stand up against all that shit. You know, just a year fucking late. Meanwhile, that's out. He's saying that because a bunch of neo-Nazis are fucking marching to D.C. with their fucking Trump boners full mass. You just went about sowing division with you're sowing division by attacking athletes. Like, to honestly believe this guy, you live in a nonsense world. Or take this for example, the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, Cory Gardner, apparently called President Obama asking him to endorse the GOP representative Martha McSally, widely viewed as the establishment favorite on August 28th. She's running for the Senate seat that Jeff Flake is giving up. Honestly, fuck him, but it's not, if it's a Republican, it's not gonna get any better. And the reason why they're asking Trump to publicly support McSally is because the two people she's going up against is Senator Kelli Ward and former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And it's like, honestly, you know what? Sorry, Republicans, but this is the shit you get with the Trump. He has publicly supported already. I mean, for fuck's sake, he pardoned Joe Arpaio, so there you go there. And he's also publicly supported Kelli Ward. And the main hardcore supporters of Donald Trump, they are fans of the Kelli Ward and the Joe Arpaios of the world. Like, you Republicans are playing fake love Trump, just so that you don't get the mad tweets and all that kind of shit, and the angry mob going after you. The angry mob wants Kelli Ward or Joe Arpaio. So it's just like, you're not... You got in bed with this fucking monster, now you gotta deal with it. So Joe Arpaio, he's known for the nation's first female juvenile chain gang. He's boasted about his draconian tactics, and cooked up new publicity stunts to bolster his "America's Toughest Sheriff" tagline. While Arpaio was busy building a national image for his mainstream of often Latino prisoners, his office reportedly failed to adequately investigate hundreds of sex crimes, including dozens of child molestations. In 2011, a federal judge found that Georgia Arpaio had unconstitutionally targeted Latinos for traffic stops and aids. The courts found that Arpaio continued to racially profile Latinos despite an injunction, and he was convicted last year of criminal contempt. A month later, Trump pardoned him. Along with their shared enthusiasm for dehumanizing immigrants, Trump and Arpaio have bonded in the past over the conspiracy theory that President Obama was hiding his Kenyan birth, which which Arpaio had established a cold case posse to investigate. To the delight of Trump, Arpaio brought up the conspiracy theory while speaking at a Trump rally in 2015. He's still clinging to it and saying in March that he would continue talking about the issue as a member of Senate because he had, quote, proved that Obama's birth certificate is a, quote, fake document. In the Senate, Arpaio has courted far-right media, including an anti-Semitic publication and the conspiracy theory outlet InfoWars. So right there you go. Yeah, I would be stunned. Maybe Trump will prove me wrong. Maybe he will prove me wrong. But I mean, my God, Arpaio, two things: the birther stuff and the immigrants, and then InfoWars. Like that is a fucking Trump love fest. So, and then who's the other person that's running? Kelli Ward. Well, when she announced in 2017 that she would challenge Flake, that's before he announced that he wouldn't run again. Trump tweeted his support. Along with that was who supports Ward is Steve Bannon and far-right funder Robert Mercer. In a Facebook Live Q&A, she said that taxation is theft and socialism sucks. Boy, and capitalism, fucking Apple, now worth $1 trillion. What do? Oh, they get $100 billion worth of stock buybacks. Boy, oh boy, capitalism is fucking great. Oh, and yeah, let's pay like way more for an iPhone than they're actually worth. Like, oh boy. Yoo-hoo, capitalism. Isn't that so great? Fucking getting fucked in the ass. Both, they are tax avoiders. And then, on top of that, they have $1 trillion, and instead of taking $100 billion to invest in United States infrastructure, jobs, research, any of that, no, we're just going to do what's best for Tim Cook and a handful of shareholders. Not even all the shareholders, just a handful of shareholders. Boy, capitalism's fucking amazing. Having said that, though, she is a Alex Jones darling, because she would love to see the United States leave the UN. Oh, this is her. I would love to see the UN leave the United States and maybe the US leave the UN. That's great. Yeah, we have to deal with fuck it. Let's just be isolated fucking third world fucks. She called Obamacare an abomination, which it is, because we should have universal health care at this point. She went on Alex Jones' show to say that she made the case that she was a true conservative who could defeat McCain. Jones called her amazing and said it was probably the most important Senate race in the country. Now, why would Alex Jones say that? Well, when she was a state senator, she called a public hearing to address her constituents' concerns about chemtrails having an effect on the weather and on the people's blood chemistry. She has declared that the U.S. has armed ISIS. She was one of the speakers at a rally sponsored by Jones and Republican dirty tricks Roger Stone in Cleveland on the first day of the 2016 RNC convention, where she mocked McCain while people in the crowd shouted traitor. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, you can attack McCain's policies, whether it's supporting wars or tax policies that favor the rich, but to call him a traitor? That's the thing, is that the Republicans, the establishment, want Trump to support a more moderate person in the sense that they're still for favoring the rich over everybody else and white supremacy, but just not so boldly open and incoherent and insane as Kelli Ward and Joe Arpaio. Moving to other news. Pence and Trump have announced fucking the U.S. Space Force. Because, boys, fucking heavy shit's going on in space, man. Now the time's come to write the next great chapter in the history of our armed forces. To prepare for the next battlefield, where America's best and bravest will be called to deter and defeat a new generation of threats to our people, to our nation, Pence said. I guess he was citing Russia and China. He said that U.S. adversaries have pursued weapons to jam, blind, and disable our navigation, communication satellites via electronic attacks from the ground. Well, so that means, we don't need to have a space force. It just means have better, cyber security. But, that's thinking. As our actions made clear, our adversaries have transformed space. Because, he lives in Indiana, but he kind of has, tries to kind of have, this close to Southern drawl. Has transformed space into a warfighting domain already. That's insane. That's insane. And the United States will not shrink from this challenge. Trump marked Pence's announcement with a tweet, Space Force all the way. But, yeah, it's insane. That's insane. There's no one in space. I guess we're going to have astronauts with machine guns. But I'll let the guy known as the budget guy, I'll let him explain how it's a farce. Number one, Trump this is a big deal, big, important deal, Space Force. So big, so important, Trump decided, I don't need to show up, I'll have the vice president do it. Trump remained on his golfing vacation instead of dramatically returning to Washington, asking House and Senate leaders to call Congress back into session, or making a nationally televised speech to demand rapid action. Rather than ask himself, Trump had his vice president release the Space Force plan. The written Space Force plan was barely an outline and gave the very clear impression that it was put together quickly without much thought. The Trump 2020 election campaign has already said it plans to sell Space Force gear. Jesus Christ. Star Wars, people. Fucking Star Wars. Alright, now here's some Montana news. A guy who's running on the Green Party ticket actually shows that he was on state GOP payroll. So this Green Party candidate, Timothy Adams, he filed against Democratic. This is what it's doing. Timothy Adams is filing as a Green Party candidate to run against John Tester, where a Green Party candidate could siphon votes from the Democrat. So, John Tester was one of the Democrats who voted for the deregulation of banks in the name that it would help him out in Montana. Well, guess what? You could have made the opposite case, which would have made you could have gotten people the vote that some regulations are too strict, but maybe some are good, and I don't know, preventing a crash is a good form of regulation. Since from the end of the great when the regulations Franklin Roosevelt had in place, from the point that those were intact till when they were removed, there weren't recessions. Not until fucking Nixon decided to deregulate banks, and that's where it fucking starts. But nope, he wanted to because he, like all the other Democrats, think that Republicans are not ruthless motherfuckers. They think that for some reason playing nice, Republicans will play nice, even though for decades now the Republicans have showed no form of being a politician in the sense of tit for tat. They are tit, 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 and fuck your tat. So you know what? Honestly, fuck Montana. Let it be Republican, even though their population of 1 million people will have as much power as the millions of people that live in New York and California and shit. But, like, you know what, Tester, you're gonna lose, and you built this grave. You built it the moment you fucking voted to deregulate banks. So whatever. So Rosie O'Donnell, along with more than 50 Broadway musicians, have been protesting out of the White House lately. They're wearing shirts that read "Now Showing Truth." They sang songs, including "America the Beautiful." And then she spoke where she goes, "The message of the people is to use your voice, stand up against treason, and stop fascism before it takes over the United States. We're going to keep coming until he's out. We hope to give you a nice little show and remind you your voice is important. Let the president know we're alive, awake, and woke." And then during the crowd was saying, "Hey, hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go." Close to lock her up, but not close. We're just saying get out of politics. Meanwhile, he's saying we need to lock people up. But boy, some Trump supporters did not like this. Like right-wing commentator and Newsmax TV personality Jesse Lee Peterson, who led the charge, starting off his radio show discussing this in a very rational way by declaring that actress Rosie O'Donnell is a fat demon from hell who hates men because she led a protest outside the White House. "I want to show you an evil woman who hates the president. Hates the Great White Hope," Peterson said. Okay, so he's just called Trump the Great White Hope. Jesse Lee Peterson is a black guy. So let's just keep that in mind. He's a black guy. She hates good, and she's just a nasty, as President said, fat woman. "This woman, Rosie O'Donnell, she's back," he added. "She tends to go down to the gates of hell. She oils up and gets her demon instructions, and then she comes out and she puts hell out on earth. And then she goes back into hell, and then she comes back. This woman hates President Trump because he is not afraid of her. He stands up to her. He calls it as he sees it, and she hates men. Rosie O'Donnell, in my opinion, hates men." I mean, like, that is nonsense. And with him and people like him, like Alex Jones, and I personally, I want to, in the sake of humanity, want to believe that these people are fraudster, hucksters, motherfuckers. But I don't know. Maybe they believe it, but like, someone's listening to them. Speaking of John Tester, Montana, and I'll get to it in a minute, Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke wrote in an op-ed last week in USA Today, and I don't know why the USA Today would allow him to do an op-ed, especially after what he wrote, where he said he wrote about forest management on public lands, saying, "Radical environmentalists would have you believe forest management means clear-cutting forests and national parks. But their rhetoric cannot be further from the truth. They make outdated and unscientific arguments void of facts because they cannot defend the merits of their policy preferences year after year as our forests and homes burn to the ground." Well, actually, forest fires are a part of nature. That's why when there's after a forest fire, you'll see birds that get camouflaged into the burnt wood and all that kind of shit, because they come and they eat the bugs from the trees, because forest fires are a part of nature. having said that, he said, he's also said, I've heard the climate change argument back and forth. It has nothing to do with climate change. This has to do with active forest management. The extreme environmentalists that, again, have shut down public access. They talk about habitat, and yet they're willing to let it burn. Well, like I said, there's actually a habitat that also benefits off of forest fires. Forests, it's actually healthy for forests to have forest fires. That's why it's a natural thing that occurs. It's just that because we use fossil fuels and we cause greenhouse gases, it's causing the air to be warmer, which means the ground gets hotter. And actually, when you have this isn't happening in fucking. Oh my God. Yeah, it's just. So, on her show, Amy Goodman had Ben Lefebvre. I don't know how to fuck. Lefebvre. He's an energy reporter for Politico. Amy Goodman said that Ryan Zinke is currently, now that Scott Pruitt is out, the most investigated secretary of the Trump administration, with 14 investigations going on. Ben replied, correct. He has had investigations almost from the start with his travel, use of charter planes, and going to political fundraisers during travel that were put about by his official role as secretary. So he has quite a number of investigations. It almost averages out like 1 or 2 per month of his tenure there. So he's an honest guy, non-corrupt guy. If you talk about this comment about radical environmentalists, wow, I just butchered that. And in the tradition of the Trump administration, his fierce climate denialism, Amy Goodman asks. Ben replies, his remarks about the wildfires is interesting in that Montana had a major wildfire not too long ago, a few years ago. If you go to Glacier National Park, you can still see the scars on the mountainsides where a lot of trees had burned down. And so the wildfires get to be an issue among Montana politicians. But while I've been told that removing the waste trees or the down trees from the forest, there's a policy debate to be had on that, Zinke and some other Republicans, including Senator Steve Daines, kind of use this phrase, radical environmentalists, quite often. Yeah, because, boy, you know who's running fucking the forestry... who's running shit and who's doing forest management in Montana? It's radical environmentalists, for sure. Jesus. You know what? His comments were as dishonest as they were insane. Because federally funded scientists have been seeking new methods and technologies to predict, prepare, and respond for safeguarding people and property. They have discovered ways to reduce risks before fires and restore land and waterways afterward. And they explore how fuels, flames, terrain, smoke, and weather interact. Defunding those efforts will endanger lives, researchers told Reveal from the Center for Investigating Reporting. Because, yeah, guess what? The Trump administration plans to slash science funding. So as Zinke says that the problem is radical environmentalists and their ways of their rhetoric and their policies and bullshit. Well, guess what? I'm gonna work for an administration that's actually gonna defund that. Nevertheless, the fire science funding has been eroding for more than a decade, thanks to conservatism. Even before Trump proposed cuts. I say thanks to conservatism because they're the ones that like to cut taxes, so that's kind of where I'm basing it from. Nancy French, a senior research scientist at the Michigan Tech Research Institute, who has federal funding, said she is extremely frustrated, more so than I have ever been in my life. You would think with people's houses burning in California and that the concern that we have for air quality, that wouldn't be hard to find a way to fund someone like me to make sure that my capabilities used to help solve some of these problems, said French. Yeah, you would, but unfortunately, we have one side, the Democrats, that are totally corrupt. With fucking the Democrats, they were originally going to not accept campaign money from fossil fuel companies, but they rescinded that, and Tom Perez said, we will, because we want to support fossil fuel employees, which is totally disingenuous, totally hypocritical in everything the rhetoric is of the Democrats about clean energy and fighting climate change. And they're not, it's not because of the workers, it's because they want money, because that's all the Democrats do, is they want money, money, money. All the time is spent making money, making money, making money. Meanwhile, they lose. And then on the other side, you have the Republicans, who are completely corrupt, but have the 1-2 punch of being corrupt and being out of their fucking minds. Alright, let's look into some other things. So, a little while back, I did a blog and talked about it in a podcast a little bit, where Raytheon was giving money to the Girl Scouts so that more girls would work in, would eventually, they would get education that would lead to them working in STEM, the STEM program, science, technology, electronics, and mathematics. Basically, in saying, really what it is that Raytheon is along with the Girl Scouts, they are training girls to really to join the war machine, which is that's really what's happening. To join the military-industrial complex. And then I also talked about in 2016 there was a Saudi-led coalition bombing in Yemen, where there was parts found of an MK-82 bomb with the coding that's implied that it was made by Raytheon. And this happened recently. So in Yemen, thousands of mourners gathered in the city of Sana'a Monday for funerals of the 51 people, including 40 children, who were killed in an airstrike on a school bus last week. The airstrike was carried out by the U.S.-backed Saudi-led coalition. Images posted online suggest a U.S.-built Mark 82 bomb was used in the airstrike. Mourners decried the attack on the school children. Mohammed Galham. The crimes that were committed by the coalition against children, Diane, are unprecedented crimes that have never happened before. Crimes that will not be forgiven by history or humanity. A crime that has never happened to anyone before. Not the Sikhs, the Indians, nor the Bengals. A crime committed by the dirty hands of al-Assad and al-Nahyan against the children of Yemen. And you know what? I mean, I hate to say this, but this is just the reality. Hold on, I'm looking for something. Damn it. So, yeah, it's the reality. And then here's another news from London. In London, at least 3 people were injured today when a car drove into a security barrier outside the House of Parliament. The driver of the car has been arrested on suspicion of terrorism offenses. My guess, he is a Muslim, and I would not put it past that it is a Muslim doing an act of terrorism, because at the end of the day, how many people, how many times do Muslims have to read stories about someone, and it's going to happen. I mean, it happened with the Weathermen and during the Vietnam War, and that was Americans. I mean, that's not it's not anything different, but I swear to God, We are paying fucking Al-Qaeda forces in fucking in Yemen to either like leave cities, and just it's a shit show. This whole thing. I mean, the reason why we are allowing Saudi Arabia to do this is because when Obama signed the nuclear deal with Iran, that pissed off the Saudis. And so the Saudis then attacked Yemen, and Obama kind of said, all right, well, if you let us do this, we'll let you do that. But now we're not even in the deal, and we're still letting them fucking do this. So it's just Jesus. So, I mean, it's just, oh my God. Speaking of military, Trump signs a $716 billion military spending bill, which also includes $21 billion for nuclear programs, for the nuke programs. That's great. Military might is more important than even jobs, said Trump. Like, all right. Now, having bases in hundreds of, in over 100 countries, not powerful enough. Man, Stephen Miller's uncle, my nephew, is an immigration hypocrite. I wrote about this too, and it's basically like, man, when your uncle is writing a story about you, calling you a hypocrite, man, when your own uncle is attacking you and calling you out, Stephen Miller is one special piece of shit. Miller's uncle wrote in an op-ed in Politico on Monday calling his nephew an immigration hypocrite for pushing the Muslim travel ban, the radical decrease in refugee, and the separation of migrant children from their parents at the border. Miller's uncle, David Glosser, wrote, "If my nephew's ideas on immigration had been forced a century ago, our family would have been wiped out." He went on to describe how Miller's family managed to come to the United States before the America First nativists of the day closed U.S. borders to Jewish refugees. So the town from where Stephen Miller's great-grandpa and great-uncle came from, only, literally, almost, it was from a Eastern European town, and it was under, when they left, they were under the Tsar, the rule of the Tsar, and basically, it's something out of the 2,000 people that lived in this village that he left, Stephen Miller's great-grandpa, only 7 people survived the Holocaust. So in other words, had his great-uncle not left, not only would Stephen Miller not exist as a human being, but Stephen Miller's entire family would not exist. His family line would have been killed. And that's the thing is, with his banner, stopping immigration, people bring up, we've done it in the past. Yeah, and we did it in the worst possible time. And when we did it, it meant the blood of Jewish people in the Holocaust. Is the last time we've had this native-style immigration policy was at the cost of the blood of Jewish people during the Holocaust. A review by the state of Virginia has confirmed immigrant teenagers were stripped to chairs and had mesh bags placed over their heads while being held at the Shenandoah Valley Juvenile Center. But the state concluded this harsh treatment did not meet the state's legal threshold of abuse and neglect. That's right, having a bag put on your head and being tied to a chair for teenagers, immigrant teenagers, that is not illegal abuse or neglect. The state review came after the AP revealed in June that children as young as 14 said they were beaten while handcuffed and locked up for long periods in solitary confinement. Left nude and shivering in concrete cells. If that was fucking true, not. We did part of that, but not all of it. But it's not abuse or neglect. Fucking disgusting. This is the insane, God. Let's wrap up with this. We have a president. This is something you hear from the UN saying it to third world dictatorships. You don't hear this for a fucking U.S. president. Even, you know what? George Bush was a hypocrite with journalists and whistleblowers and this and that. But at least his rhetoric wasn't inciting this within the United States of Trump's attacks on press are very close to incitement to violence. The outgoing United Nations Human Rights Commissioner has criticized President Trump's attacks on the media. Saeed Ra'ad al-Hassan said Trump's description of the media as the enemy of the people is very close to incitement of violence. I don't know why I think that is incitement of violence. He's saying they are the enemy of the people. The enemy of the people means that they are to be fought, to be attacked. If they're the enemy, if that is the enemy, you at the least would shun them? Meanwhile, more than 200 newspapers in the United States are planning to run editorials on Thursday to decry Trump's attack on the press. Good. The only good thing about Trump is that it has sort of revamped media to actually stand up to power, even if it's minor, even if it's just MSNBC going after him for Russia, even if it's that bare minimum, that is more than they did for Bush and Obama. And Fox News is doing, they are just Republican state media. Whether it's to be a Democrat as president or whether it'll be someone, a Democrat in the White House, and they'll just attack that person without, they could have attacked Obama for things, but it was like he signs the National Defense Authorization Act, which I would find draconian, where due process of the Fourth Amendment is just completely evaporated, gone, see you later, sayonara. But Fox News, it's like, that's not hardcore enough. Trump or Obama's being too big of a pussy. And so, I just have no hope in the Democrats, though. They're just so bad that I'm worried they're not even gonna win. They're not even gonna control the House. I don't think they're even gonna control the House. I really think at the end of the day we're gonna be stuck with a Republican majority in the Senate, in the House, and obviously the president, because we are that corrupt. We're not going to use Devin Nunes pretty much saying that Trump is corrupt. None of that. We are going to just go down a path of fucking shithole. Fucking A. Honestly, man, I'm worried. I'm fucking worried. And I don't really have anything good to end with today. There's nothing good to end with. What is there good to be happy about right now? Other than being alive. Being alive means we still have hope. We still have a shot. And I guess that's the best I can do. Peace out till next time. On Thursday, I plan on doing just a me podcast where there's a title of an article titled "Why You Shouldn't Care Whether Kavanaugh is an Originalist." That's the judge that Brett Kavanaugh that Trump wants to have as the new Supreme Court judge. He's an originalist, and I'm going to refute that, why you should care whether or not Kavanaugh is an originalist. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Apple, and how Apple is a perfect example of how our economic system needs to change. That and that that we need a more Bernie bro tax system than what we fucking got. And then some other stuff, some nonsense people, stupid shit Trump said. Like, I forgot to mention, like, aside from Ryan Zinke going after Zinke, however the fuck you call his name, him going after climate radical environmentalists, Trump was going after California for diverting river water to the ocean. Yeah, that's a good way to end. Peace out, motherfuckers.